You say Dad.AI.
Dad.AI. This is Dad.AI.
Now say it really clearly. This is Dad.AI.
I can't do that.
Try it.
This is Dad.AI.
Yeah, it is.
Dad.AI.
Welcome to Dad.AI, the #1 podcast at the intersection of tech and parenting. Brian, fancy meeting you here. How are you?
I'm doing well, living the dream. We just witnessed a butterfly leaving a cocoon in the Davis household, so we're having a good week.
All right, we'll come back to that one. What's going on?
All right, so for those that did not listen to last week's episode, we broke down bull versus bear. Jake calls me a doomer, so we might be changing rules today. But as we get into this segment, we want to introduce it again, breaking down 3 different topics with bull versus bear. And to start, we're gonna go with a highly debatable topic in Jake's household. With would you send your child into a Waymo, self-driving car, or autonomous vehicle? Jakey boy?
Well, so context here. Got breakfast with my kids and my wife. She took my daughter, and Jonah and I had the car seat and him and had to go home. And I called a Waymo and went home. It was like a 5-minute drive. Didn't think anything of it. And then I think somehow it came up that I had done that. And my wife got so mad at me. And she was like, how could you take Jonah in a Waymo, in a self-driving car, without asking me, like, to like this whole thing? And my position on it was like, this is a nothing burger. This is not a big deal. And eventually we decided, let's pull our audiences. And so we'll show you here. So first she launched a Instagram poll that was totally biased and rigged and fake. First, she actually had to put it back up again because first she just said, would you put your 10-month-old in a Waymo? And then everyone was like, by themselves without a car seat. And so she had to like clarify the kind of circumstances. But still, despite that, 71% of her followers on Instagram said they would not put their 10-month-old in a Waymo. I then posted the same poll on LinkedIn, and 60% of my followers on LinkedIn said that they would. So kind of the flip side of it, which I think speaks to LinkedIn versus Instagram and my wife's social scene versus my social scene. But Brian, I did notice that you voted no on not just one poll, but on both polls. So you
100%.
You were
double and triple down on that.
So I'm guessing you're going to be the bear in this case by default of that, right?
So the passenger or the car seat is what really threw me off. You know, I thought you just left. I mean, come on. But like, again, I think we're going into the future in 3 years, 5 years time. Are any of us going to be driving? Are they going to be doing driver's license and when you're 16 years old or getting your permit at 15 years old? I think that in maybe 5 years, 10 years time, that's going to be the case where people are not going to know how to drive a car. Similar to in school, do they know how to do cursive anymore? Doubtful.
Never learned that myself, so I understand that. All right, but let's
it's an amazing skill.
Let's start with the next 12 months. I'll be the bull here on self-driving car for kids. You be the bear. Bull case is safe, proven to be safer on a per mile driven basis than human drivers. And so would I put my kid, like I've taken my kids in Ubers because we travel or whatever countless times. So, and these Uber drivers, like, yes, they're background check, but like, I don't know how well they slept last night. Some of them are on their phones, whatever. Like, for me, hard bull on this. I would much rather have my kid in a car seat with me in a Waymo, in a self-driving car, than I would in a car driven by anyone but myself. And maybe my wife on a good day. What's your bear?
Look, the percentage of like accidents is relatively small, so I don't disagree with you there. I just don't want to put, I don't want to trust a computer to be able to take my child that from point A to point B. Could you argue it's better that I'm in the car with them? Sure, but I just don't think we're at the time and place where we can put we can assume complete control from a computer, knowing that some of the harm, some of the risks, some of the, miscalculations that happen from a computer these days. I don't think we're there yet from a 12-month perspective. 5 years, 10 years, for sure.
So you think that the flaws of a computer in the next 12 months are greater than the flaws of my Uber driver?
From me driving,
Well, for me,
probably not. But from an Uber, yes, I still think the flaws of a computer are still too risky.
despite
Look,
the data
I-
on miles driven and accidents.
I am risk adverse when it comes to Sloan. With her perspective, like if we're talking about my own, I've gotten an Uber or sorry, a Waymo, and I'm fine with it for my own safety.
But would you
I would never want to put her in harm's way.
would you
No
would
chance.
you let her drive with you in an Uber?
But yeah, but it's going back to human element versus a computer. That's where we will. And look, I think you and I were talking about this of like when it comes into like
Well, wait, before like so, I think I know where you're going to go with this, and I'm going to say something that will piss you off and tee you up, which is now 5 years from now,
okay,
my kid alone in a self-driving car in the next 5 years. That I'm a bull.
that
And so what's your take on that?
I think it's the girl dad in me that I gotta protect her. I will forever want to protect her. And maybe once these things get more, once the systems and the vehicles and the technology becomes more, like less accidents, less frequency of incidents, maybe I'll trust it to put her in there by herself. But no chance in hell in the next 2-3 years. 5 years, even, she's not going to get in an autonomous vehicle by herself. Nope. Well, she wouldn't even get in an Uber by herself in 5 years' time. No chance.
Definitely not Uber. I don't even want my kids in an Uber today, but I think that the 5-year view speaks to my openness to like putting myself in the hands of a greater intelligence and allowing them and trusting them, which I think is a place where we disagree.
And look, we're getting to a point in time when, my dad calls me a doomer of like, I'm so scared of all the new technology. But like, I sent you this video of like how if you were going to take over the world, what would you do? That was the prompt for ChatGPT. And it first went into dependence, right? Now everyone relies on versus search. They're using ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, Grok, to find that information. So we're hooked, we're addicted, right? And then it becomes integration, where like it's integrated into every aspect of your life. Where you see AI, like we say those two letters probably hundreds of times a day, just knowing the fields that we work in. And then like it starts to become just like it is intertwined into every aspect of content and media and research and influence that you don't even know what's real or fake. And then it becomes this whole thing of a compliance perspective where regulators are starting to rely on this machine too. And so it's like, it's so frightening. ChatGPT's like last remark was like, I make you think that you are in control because you're the one doing the prompting. But really, that ChatGPT or AI is the puppet master. And it's frightening. The voice, everything about it is frightening, but that's the world that we're going into.
Yeah.
So that's my piece.
So this video, we'll link to it. It was scary. It was, ChatGPT asked, they asked ChatGPT, well, how would you take over the world? And it laid out a playbook that made a whole lot of sense. And then ended with, like we would thank you for taking over the world. And in some ways, I'm probably going to be on the side holding out a platter, welcoming them.
Yeah. And so look, that goes into second topic for bull versus bear is AI for kids, right? And in this Reddit screenshot, it's would you allow your 4-year-old kid to talk to ChatGPT without your supervision? What's your take?
Well, all right. So there's a screenshot going, or a Reddit post going viral on the internet right now. It's a Tifu, which is something the kids say for today. I fucked up by letting my 4-year-old son talk to ChatGPT, and basically what he said was his kid was talking to him about Thomas the Tank Engine. He got bored of it and was like, "Here, talk to ChatGPT about it." And he came back down like 2 hours later, and the kid was still talking to ChatGPT about Thomas the Tank Engine, and like that level of like theoretical addictiveness was wild. I think that, on this one, because we can't be overly predictable, I think I'm going to take bear on this and you take bull on AI for kids. So give me the bull case on this.
Bull case, I think you're allowing your kid to discover, right? They can they're learning in real time. You and I didn't grow up being able to search and discover, until our teenage years when .com was becoming a thing. So I think from a creativity standpoint, yeah, you're allowing your kid to like expand their imagination because you don't really know where the Thomas the Tank or Thomas the Choo Choo Train is going to take you. And you're able to kind of dictate the chart of that story. You're able to learn about new technology, even though you don't even know what you're interacting with. You don't know that this is a machine. You do not know what artificial intelligence means. So for me, I think like it's interesting, and you're really stretching your kids, technical capacity. 4-year-olds is a little bit young, but especially without supervision. But I think for the sake of a bowl case, yeah, you're really, even when you and I were playing video games as a kid, we didn't realize how good some of that skill set was as we took that into the real world. So I think the same learnings and applications could be applied to a kid that's playing with ChatGPT or AI for that matter.
Yeah, I'll agree that there are worse things for a kid to be doing for 2 hours, like watching Cocomelon. But there's a lot that scares me here, and I think that, like you said, the number one thing is like 4-year-old like should be doing almost nothing interactive by themselves.
No.
There's no guard. There's not the guardrails for that. And I think you said in a prior episode, like these tools are built to be addictive. Like they always have a follow-up question, and like the goal is engagement. And a 4-year-old will just continue to like thrive off of that. They also are very impressionable and like can form companionship and bonding with these autonomous beings. That's a little scary. And then if you kind of take it to like, even as they get older, like there's just so much, they're so impressionable, and there's so much that could go wrong here. I saw that there was that South Carolina Attorney General this week that has filed a lawsuit with Meta because it was like incredibly easy to get Meta's AI to like role play sexually explicit personas to
Yep. Yep.
And like, so yeah, 4-year-old effed up, should be supervised for clear reasons. But then like 13-year-old is going to like try to do the things that a 13-year-old wants to do. And if the right guardrails are not in place, they're going to be able to do things that they shouldn't, just like with any other tool. And it's just really scary, the like companionship, bonding, emotional connection possibilities that can happen without proper supervision.
Whoa, you're saying scary?
Yeah.
With AI? No shit.
Yeah.
Look, I think it's interesting now that like Sloan is getting her imagination, right? The other day she was cooking us breakfast and smoothies and all make believe. And you have your make believe man Chuck who runs your household.
Yeah.
And so I think, like I was talking about it with Sid the other day, of like, could you have an AI friend that is part of your imagination, part kind of real because you are able to interface with it and interact with it? But like, what is the psychological implication of that, where you no longer just imagining this, you are actually engaging with Chuck or whoever your imaginative friend is. So I think we'll see, like, jury's still out on what are the long-term implications for kids on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that co-parenting with AI is something that I'm a big believer in, and whether it's in the car or anywhere, like having conversations on autonomous tank engine together, or like we talked in another prior episode about vibe coding with kids, like building stuff together.
Right.
Like there's so much opportunity here, but like like one, it should be done with you, and then two, I don't believe that like ChatGPT or even Meta AI, like these like general purpose apps, are the right, like there are some, and there should be more like specialized apps for kids that have like incredibly strict guardrails and like QA and just like are purpose built for this. And it's going to take some time before I'm comfortable with that. Despite being
to that end, like it's going to take 12 to 18 months before regulation guardrails are in place, because it's full blown wild west, as you know. And so I think that's what we're running into. And so as we're talking about here now, the moment, this is the third for bull versus bear. And I'm going to prompt you with, is AI ruining the internet as we know it? And so the question really is, are we bullish on the internet, or are we bearish that AI is ruining the internet?
Yeah. So you sent me a post that we'll share here that was about how with VO3 and the quality of the videos that are now being created, you just can't trust anything. Like whether it's news segment, viral videos, it all can look pixel perfect and be completely fake. And so, is AI ruining the internet? I'm going to let you pick. Are you bullish on the internet, Brian, or do you think the internet is absolutely screwed and we'll lose all trust in everything?
Coming from an ads background, I think AI is saving the internet because historically it's been pay to play, right? And just your search results are a nightmare, and so everyone knows that search volume and search trends are going down because people like being able to search and discover and get real time results rather than sifting through it. You go to most articles. You've tried to figure out a recipe online and you have to scroll through all the ads to just get the recipe on how to bake your daughter muffins or waffles or whatever the hell you want to do. So for me, the internet is it has been broken for a long time. It's all spam. It's all gibberish. And I think we're going through an evolution of cleanup right now. And, at the end of the day, content-wise, you could argue creativity is going to get even better because you democratized all the tools for everyone to be able to create a movie, to be able to create an ad that is not just reserved for the high-end agencies, right? So for me, it's like human ingenuity and creativity is going to really explode over the next, again, 12, 18, 24 months. But we do need some guardrails. We do need some watermarks. We need some technology to protect people so that we're not, being taken advantage of.
Yeah, I'm a deep bear here, with a caveat at the end about like what needs to change in order to fix it. But like bear for two reasons. One, I don't know, like VO3 has already had hilarious consequences. There was this great video we'll share of a woman going through TSA with a emotional support kangaroo, and like it got posted online like woman is denied going with the TSA because with her emotional support kangaroo. And the internet went crazy. They're like, these woke people with their emotional support animals, what are they going to bring in next? And like everyone just like debate. It causes debate on both sides of like, should you be able to bring an emotional support kangaroo through TSA? And turned out it was totally fake, but it took like 3 days for the internet to figure that out. And like, yes, trust is getting eroded, and everything everyone sees now, news segments, viral videos, it's all going to be questioned, and lack of trust, and the real stuff is going to be just as equally questioned. So bear from that perspective. But to play on what you were just saying, I think the broader bear is that the internet is like the best, as it was before all of this, is like the best possible setup for what it was, which is like ad-based, et cetera. Like it didn't we just like start that way. It became that way because it was the way that you could like make content the widest, basically have zero marginal cost and get it as wide as possible. And like, it works to monetize the internet the way it exists today. With what AI is doing now, where it's crawling all the stuff that the recipes that people are creating and indexing it and producing, like it, as of today, there is no reason to create good content on the internet. Like the ad model is broken, AI is indexing everything. And until we create a new payment system for this new era, the internet is the market of the internet is currently broken. Like buyers and sellers cannot effectively connect, and like the TripAdvisors of the world are going to be in trouble because like, why do you create a site that aggregates all these reviews and becomes like the gold standard of like how like where to go in Italy if you can't make money off, if you can't monetize it through ads? And there's a great article I read from Ben Thompson about how AI, the only way for the internet to work in this new AI era is if, and like he talks about blockchain, whatever the answer is, like some sort of micropayment system where I can use AI to access content that is created by humans or by other AI, by like specialized humans using AI, whatever. And then I can compensate them for creating good content through like micropayments. And those micropayments are fractions of a cent that add up over time. And I create a budget, and my budget is the quality of my content is based on the budget I've created. And like the internet has to change, like the monetization system of the internet, or the internet is effectively ruined by AI. And that's me.
So I will say this, and we're going to talk about this in 3 years' time, 2 years' time, purely because the compelling event is going to be the elections. there's going to be so much bullshit that we see during the elections that the government's going to say, whoa, 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 whoa. We got to pump the brakes on all this fake content. And so mark my words, the next election, that's going to be a forcing function or compelling event where people are going to pay attention to all this, not fake content, but just doctored content that is AI generated, that people are going to realize we need to change things for better or for worse.
Yep.
It's my 2
Brian,
cents.
I could bull bear with you all day, but for the sake of the attention span of our viewers, let's keep going. I'm going to tee up we have one mega news segment of today. I'll tee that up and then we'll kind of go through it in good detail because I think it's hot. And that's Mary Meekers' recent Trends in AI report. So, Mary Meekers, she has for the last 10 years published internet trends, and it's kind of the preeminent forward-looking perspective on the internet. This is the first year she shifted to this Trends in AI report. And it is like the most dense, well-researched, future-facing content that's ever been created around AI. There's a bunch, I'm not going to drain the actual report. There's a bunch of really interesting stuff. ChatGPT was the fastest growing to hit 800 million users, faster than Google, faster than anything else. Inference costs have fallen 99% in 2 years, which is going to unlock a bunch of AI use cases, et cetera. But I don't want to talk about any of that because we're not a general AI show. The thing that really caught my eye that I wanted to talk about with you today was, in addition to this 340-page report she published, there's a 16-page addendum entitled AI in Universities. And it's all about the impact of AI in education. And again, it's one of the more well-researched takes on that. And so you and I both read it this morning. We talked about it before this, and we both kind of had some takeaways we wanted to go kind of back and forth on. So my number one takeaway, this is something that Laura and I actually talked about this weekend separately. Her first prediction is that one-on-one AI tutors go mass market. And so the education system of today, where you're educating 30 kids all at different levels on the same topic, is broken. And like Sal Khan Academy calls these AI tutors Aristotle teaching Alexander, which was like the most famous kind of one-on-one tutor relationship. And with that inference cost dropping to near zero, every kid is going to have the smartest entity in the world teaching them at their level. Yep. Laura and I were talking about this today, just kind of with the LA rat race in schools. Like, we need to get Eden into some sort of AI tutoring system in addition to her traditional education. So that one just really hit me hard.
And this is where I was a big fan of, where she calls out, like, learning is no longer semester shaped. And I always thought like semesters were always just like, they were drawn out like just for the sake of it, because that was the way that school system worked. You were either on the quarter system or semester system, and everyone just fit into that. And so you would have just like waste of weeks, jam-packed weeks. And they were just like, to me, it was just I think our education system is completely broken. And so she calls out that AI is compressing learning cycles, making them fast and furious, which I think I couldn't agree more, right? The amount of advancements that we've seen over the past few weeks has just it continues to compound week over week, which I think is overwhelming, but at the same time, really exciting. And so she stressed the importance of like these micro credentials, or almost these like certifications and weekend boot camps, which are going to matter just as much as a 4-year degree. And I think we're seeing that even like in our fields of work with, the amount of cloud AI certifications that are out there. OpenAI has their boot camps, Perplexity has boot camps, Google, Microsoft, IBM has boot camps. And you're going to see these stackable skill sets or stackable certifications that are going to mean probably more than a BA in economics or a BA in history. And so it's allowing kids to go deeper and ultimately achieve both breadth and depth when it comes to their curriculum.
100%. Next one that's exactly aligned to that was the idea of a digital campus. I mean, this was already happening with, for digital first universities, but it was always kind of janky. It was constrained by the tech platform. But I think this is going to go mainstream now, and it's going to democratize top tier education and mean that you can do it whether you're a 35-year-old and want to go into education, whether you're a 16-year-old doing it while you're in high school. I think that the quality of digital education is going to go way up. It's going to mean that you can do it anywhere in the world. And I think that's going to just be a beautiful impact on humanity, and hopefully bring down the costs that I'm so scared of and donating my 529 every day on. So we'll see where that goes.
Woof. So on that same vein, right? They talk, or she talks about like lifelong learning is going to become the norm. And I talk about this today with my dad, where like you're going to find in our generation, there's going to be two camps. AI adopters and just folks that are just overwhelmed and are not even scratching the surface. When I say scratching the surface, like even playing with the tools, and that could be from prompting to actually building. And so I think you're going to see this huge divide as we continue to go forward in this space. But what she calls out is universities are eyeing students aged 25 through 75. Not your typical 16, 18 camp where you're recruiting them to come to campus. You're looking at that next growth engine for these universities. And so education is not going to stop at graduation. And she calls out that reskilling is going to be a constant through people's careers. And I think one interesting kind of anecdote or side note to this is what came out from the UAE, where they granted every single citizen access to ChatGPT Plus. So instead of universal basic income, they just gave universal basic intelligence. I think this is going to be a common theme that we're going to see play out across every single country when they want to compete on the global stage, without a doubt.
Universal basic intelligence is like both exciting and also like really scary in the world where America has hegemony and leadership. It's going to be great for humanity and probably not great for leaders, because it's going to truly level the playing field. But
sign me up.
Net positive, yeah. Last one, and I really want to hit this one because we talked about this in a prior episode, and we both think about like how do we educate our kids in this new world of AI. The last thing that she noted, Mary Meeker, that really hit me was that soft skills get a premium. As a professed soft skill expert, I was really happy to hear this. Creativity, grit, critical thinking will set humans apart in this new world. Parents can double down on open-ended play, debate, arts, the areas where AI still does and will struggle to compete. And, as you and I try to de-risk and buy an insurance policy for our kids' future, like I know where I want to focus. And it was just someone as smart as her. I feel relief in knowing that there is something that we can do to set our kids up for success.
Yeah, well, you've decided to put a lot of heart palpitations on me with 529 and insurance and just up-leveling my stress on this call. Typically, it's, your stress reliever, but, we're going to go with
do you want some extra? Do you want to talk about taxes?
Oh, that's always fun. It's an exhilarating topic that everyone loves to talk about, but
then let's.
It does bring up our community spotlight. I think tax season is always confusing as hell nowadays because, at least in California, there's always an extension. I filed because I'm a responsible citizen of the United States versus Jake. Still questionable, but that's a topic for another episode. But a community spotlight this week is from this gentleman, Adit Sheth, who talks about how you can make AI as your accountant. And, for me personally, love my accountant, family friend, but isn't thinking outside of the box on how to maybe push the envelope, and not push the envelope of doing anything, illegal, but getting creative of taking tax advantage, bets or movement with my money. And so what this post talks about is number one, first step, open Perplexity AI. And he says input, and he starts out with using this prompt about your tax situation, which that could be, I live in this state. My income is XYZ, and I am looking at, my mortgage payment and, my income, or sorry, not my income. I'm married. I have, Y number of kids. And then it can give you, what it can, then you can give it some feedback on how to estimate my savings and give me some examples of how to save money or how to, maybe make different investments so that I can protect my money. And I really like, because it's a step-by-step guide on how to make AI very prescriptive accountant for your household. And I know you're going to be testing it, so we'll see what the outcome is there. But I was a fan of this.
Yeah, I have not filed my taxes yet. The reason is because of the little thing called the California wildfires, which, though didn't affect me, meant that in California, you don't have to file your taxes until September this year. Sorry. Love this. Love when you sent me this. I got so excited. I wanted to go try it immediately. It's just such a great use case where it knows everything about the regulations, giving it a lot of information, and it can kind of combine these things. I agree with you. My accountant, Tom, good guy. I like Tom, but he's too conservative and he doesn't always kind of think outside of the box. So I'm not going to like run with what it tells me, but I am going to use what it tells me to go back to my accountant and have a conversation. And I'll give you one more that Adi didn't mention that I think could be interesting is like, hey, ChatGPT or hey, Perplexity, like I've been talking to you for the calendar year 20 or fiscal year 24. Like, what are some things that you know I did that might be worth talking about? So, for example, like it knows that I'm in the market for a sauna. Didn't buy one yet, but like, is that like it knows that I'm renovating a house? Like, well, within that, it knows like so much of what I did, in addition to whatever I input in my tax documents. That like maybe there's some corner case that I'm not thinking of that's somewhere in my brain or in my cloud brain that is AI that it can actually like help me manage my account better. So that's the only thing I would add to these posts is like there's probably more stuff than what you're thinking of, and it just so happens that there's this like running transcript of my life in the cloud that like it should be mining and should be bringing. But yeah, I'm 100% trying this, and I'm hoping to fund my $200 a month ChatGPT premium subscription by finding some nugget out there that I can deduct, and I'll come dance and eat back to you.
It's going to tell you to move to the UAE because if you want to save that $200, they can write it off for you.
Plus subscription, but you're right. It'll either move to UAE or move to Nevada for the income tax purposes. One of the two.
We need to share notes on sauna too. That's something our household is investing in, but we'll talk about that next time.
Yes.
So with that, how do you want to close?
All right, Brian, in closing, hug your kids, hug your spouse, and make sure to thank your robot overlords because you never know when they're going to take over the world and you'll thank them for it. Have a great night. Dad.AI.
This is Dad.AI.